Today we're going through a couple thoughts I have on my brand new Back Quiver. Stay tuned. Greetings, adventurers. So it's been a hot minute since we've done an archery video, and it's also been a hot minute since I've done a bite-sized video like this. So if we're lucky, I'm going to keep this one a little shorter. I have more thoughts than just this, but I'm going to try to release them in shorter videos and see what people prefer. If they prefer the shorter videos, if they prefer longer videos. If you have thoughts, go ahead and comment those down below. Now, this scabbard isn't brand new to me. It's brand new to the channel. This was a gift from a friend of mine as I was working the Robin Hood's Fair, so I've been practicing with it for a couple of weeks now. And I'm not presenting what I'm about to present to you as something that is definitively historically accurate. I am presenting it as an option, something that I've discovered, as potentially viable for people to try out if they have scabbards like this. Now, this is a tubular back quiver with one single strap that goes from shoulder to shoulder. Now, it could be worn either side, obviously, but it does not have a side strap that's going to keep it from doing this, where it slips down because of its own weight. Now, that obviously becomes a problem. Now, when I was looking at historical iconography, and my search was by no means exhaustive, I didn't find any historical depictions of back scab. I keep trying to call this back scabbard because the descriptor back always makes me think of back scabbards. So if I say scabbard by accident, we're just gonna have to deal with it because that's where my brain's at today. I couldn't find any historical depictions of back quivers that actually had the third strap here to brace it to keep it from falling backwards. Now, that's obviously a good fix, and I possess the capabilities to modify this back quiver so that it can do that. But I was curious to think about what other ways this could have been used, given that I think this is a historical design, but having the tri-strap is not. So the first solution would obviously be just to shorten the strap. I got a lot of slack here, and I'm going to be trying that next. That'll be in a later video potentially. What I've also done with that slack is I've actually tucked it down into my belt in the hopes that that would keep it from sliding around too much, and that doesn't really work as well as I want it to. It still slides, and the problem is that even if I get it nice and tight, the literal motion of moving my arm back to grab the arrows actually forces the scabbard backwards with my back. So as I'm reaching, my arrows are getting further and further away from me. And I don't know that shortening the strap would help with that. I was also thinking, what if I poked 2 holes in the top here and then put points on my garment so that I could literally attach the scabbard to myself and then it would move with me. We'll see if I do that. This is a very nice scabbard, and I don't necessarily want to start just poking holes in it. But I also don't have any historical precedent for that happening either. In fact, if we're just going historically, tucking your arrows directly into your belt is the thing that I've personally seen most often. But another thing that I did see, and that is the topic of today's video, is actually that instead of wearing it from shoulder to waist, in the Bayeux Tapestry, quite popularly, I see someone wearing a back quiver like this. So the quiver is actually slung across both shoulders with the weight evenly distributed across the front of the chest here, and the quiver is worn this way. Now, it is theoretically possible to draw an arrow from here, knock it, and fire. But here's what I'd like to present to you. And this is the sort of video that's a little bit like my knife throwing video, where I didn't have a whole lot of practice with the topic. I've obviously had much more experience with archery than knife throwing, but I am opening this up to everyone who has any opinion, any comment, any historical background in this, to just let us know what you think about this. Here's the thing that I've sort of come up with. There are back quivers, and there are side quivers, but a quiver worn like this isn't necessarily conducive to trying to reach back, because that's a really odd angle. My arm is starting to cramp up there. But taking inspiration from how modern rifle slings are used, where you have it set up so that it's tight to your body and it's easy to carry, but the second you need to use it, you can swim out of the rifle strap so that you have more mobility and it's just around your neck. What if instead of using the scabbard, instead of just using the quiver like this, slung across your chest. This was just how you transported it. And then the second you needed it, you swing your right shoulder out. There's a problem. But this quiver isn't actually set up to retain the arrows. A lot of historical quivers I've seen actually have pieces of canvas or pieces of leather that are attached to the inside in the form of a disc with holes punched out for each individual arrow. I might try that and see if that helps retain the arrows. But what if you carry it this way, you swim out when you need it. Now it's essentially a side quiver, slung from your left shoulder down to your right. And from here you can draw out arrows and fire them easily as well. And I'm practicing both sides of the bow now, just because. And then when you're done, the quiver comes back up over your back, and you're able to run around with it, transport it theoretically more easily than a side quiver, because those do tend to be rather bulky. So that's what I have to suggest, and I'm really curious what other people think. I want other people to try and then comment, maybe, just to see if they like it, if they think that it's feasible, because it's really easy to just watch me do it and be like, oh, I would never do that. So but there'll be those comments too, so very good, very good. Okay, so we had to move inside because the water boiler in the basement turned on. I didn't want to have to edit out the sound. I have no control over the soundscapes that I film in. It's kind of awful, but we're inside now. And I wanted to briefly talk about why it is that I'm even interested in back quivers in the first place. Now, obviously, we see that they pop up a whole lot in modern media, and also that they are historically accurate to a degree. And mostly because they appear in Lord of the Rings. That's why I like them so much and want to emulate them, because they look cool. And now when we're talking about Lord of the Rings, the interesting thing is that in some of the scenes, and additionally in some stock photos and other mediums as well, I have seen what appear to be right-handed archers, bow left hand, bowstring right hand, wear their quivers over their left shoulder, like this. And I have no genuine idea why that is. And I'm really hoping that if anyone does shoot this way, if you're a right-handed shooter and you have your arrows over your left shoulder, I'm really genuinely curious why and how, because I've tried shooting like this, and it doesn't matter if the quiver is hiked up super high on my back, and I suppose I can reach them. But then if I've got my bow in my right hand, I'm holding the strap at the moment, but if I'm holding my bow in my right hand, I'm not. I haven't found a way that this is more convenient than any other way. And especially as the quiver starts to lower itself, it becomes borderline impossible. But I'm curious because there are scenes in Lord of the Rings where it looks like Legolas and Aragorn have their quivers over their left shoulder for some reason. And if it were just one movie or just one scene, we could chalk it up to continuity. We could chalk it up to, well, maybe the actor, the costumer, wasn't paying attention or doesn't know how archery is actually done. But given that it's multiple scenes, and given that we know that they actually received training in archery, and given that, Viggo Mortensen and Orlando Bloom are kind of awesome to begin with, and that I've also seen it in other mediums other than just Lord of the Rings, I have to really wonder if this is a viable thing and I just haven't figured it out yet. But I genuinely don't know why someone would choose to do this. So again, really curious if anyone has any answers. But so if we look at Aragorn's archery setup, he has very, very short arrows, which also means that even if they're hanging pretty low like this, because it's all attached to his bedroll, you could theoretically, reach behind and grab out arrows that way. It's not super ergonomic or comfortable, but I suppose you could do it. So for anyone who has like an actual copy of the movie version of Aragorn's setup, how do you deploy your bow and your arrows quickly? Really curious to know that as well. And obviously I want to have my own version of that one day so I can test it out and try certain things, but I don't have that at the moment. So, and even if I did, I might come up with different answers than other people. So just curious, for people who have a very, very small arrows that don't require a long draw stroke anyway, and you wear them sort of in this lower position on your back, how do you get to them? And what do you think of the idea of transitioning from chest to to lower. Obviously, my hair gets in the way. I need another haircut. Yeah, so it obviously all depends on the type of arrows and the type of archery that you're doing as well. If you were going into battle, you would need more arrows, and if you were in an army, you would be in a group of other archers that all have your arrows, like in barrels or something. And if you're going hunting, you probably don't need that many arrows to begin with. Modern hunters don't carry that many arrows with them. But if you're a ranger, you do need to have, you know, it's your weapon theoretically, and that's sort of what we do here on the channel anyway. So we're not super focused on just replicating exactly historical techniques, because I'm coming at it from a fantasy perspective. Lord of the Rings, Ranger, Witcher, you know, what, Dovahkiin, whatever. The idea is that I want to be an adventurer with period kit. So that means that I have the ability to take modern systems and then apply them to period gear, and maybe come up with some new, more efficient ways of using it. And sometimes we find that the way that an item was used historically is the most efficient way of using it. And then other times we find, as with back scabbards on swords, that if you were an adventurer, which historically didn't really happen, having the scabbard on your back is better in some regards than how it was worn historically. So that's my quick little thought on back quiver use, and I'm really curious to know what everyone else thinks. As always, thank you for watching. I'll see you all next time, I hope. And in the meantime, good luck on your adventures.